Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, basketball in the Bahamas as the Red Raiders go Island Boys, and playoff path preferences. We're dreaming big dreams.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network in the world. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet only $5. And if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again. And on today's episode, we are going to hit the hardwood as the Red Raiders are hitting the islands. Basketball in the Bahamas this week. Not sure that's the accent that goes with the Bahamas, but I'm working on the fly here. We're going to talk Red Raider hoops and what's coming up, Wake Forest, and then ... We'll get to that in just a moment. I want to get to, for the majority of our conversation today, however, Chris, a playoff frame of mind. This is all hedged by the knowledge that you are not yet there. We all understand that, but dare to dream a little bit in today's conversation. And this in particular, Chris, on the heels of the college football playoff rankings we had to digest this week as Texas Tech is sliding up near that top four category, just outside of that at number 5. I want to get to some of the different things impacting maybe some preferences, some college football playoff druthers, if you will, for a Red Raider fan. Maybe number 1 on the list, the state of your injured or banged up at best quarterback in Behren Morton and the difference possibly of a game or not being played in the first round. And I seriously want to discuss sort of what would be entailed there in the first round in a variety of ways, because we've been talking a lot about how appealing it is from a party in the LBK aspect. And one of the biggest games, or the biggest game in Jones Stadium history, potentially, or not. And then there's also the possibility, as we've seen in some of the most recent projections, Chris, of that type of party being there, but a group of 5 opponent being on the other sideline, sort of something different to consider. But I'm wondering, just to kick it off, man, are you daring to dream a little bit now about potentially some top 4 slotting out there for a Big 12 champion? Because I got to say, I was a little bit bearish on that over recent weeks. I don't even know that I was considering that type of life potentially for Texas Tech, but I'm buying in a little bit at this point if you continue to stack wins, I guess.
Well, and especially stack wins the way you've done it, because I think the committee has certainly taken note of how you've been handling your business, not just that you've been handling your business. As you start to look at the different possibilities, because we're running out of games here, there's only so many different things that could happen. Texas Tech is only guaranteed to play one more regular season game, and then, obviously the West Virginia game, and you win it, you're in Arlington, and then you'll have an opportunity to play a second game there before these rankings are final. If you were to lose in Morgantown, then depending on what else happens, you may or may not get to still play in Arlington. Because at that point, like any loss in the next 2 games, let's just play it that way, and you're certainly not getting a bye. And I guess there's some scenarios where you wouldn't even be able to host. Okay, I think that's just because of how volatile it could be. There's going to be some very meaningful games that are played like in and around you rankings wise. That is going to, because I've had somebody tell me, man, okay, well, you could absolutely move up and get a bye because Indiana and Ohio State could play. Well, yeah, but depending on what that game looks like, if it's a close game, are they going to punish the loser of that game by losing to one of the top teams in the country? Like, I don't know.
They should, if it helps us. I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents on that.
I don't disagree with that. But I mean, you just don't know what they're thinking and all those things. But you are. I also wonder this aloud. I also wonder if you've, in some ways, this is about as high as you could get. Maybe the 4th spot. I just wonder how much higher you could realistically get here with what is left on your schedule, because you are going to play a 4-7 West Virginia team. Then you're going to play, maybe a BYU, maybe a Utah, maybe an Arizona State. And these are all ranked teams, but they're not – these are not top 10, certainly not top 5 ranked teams. And others will have some opportunities for a little more juice on what they could or – could do. So I think it's worth asking aloud because you almost need help to get into that bye scenario. But maybe that's what you don't want. Maybe you don't want the bye. The funny thing is you're on this 4 to 5 kind of spot, and it's like play Tulane at home, then go play Georgia, or sit there and watch Georgia play Tulane, and then you get Georgia, at the neutral site quarterfinal game, whether it's the Orange, Sugar, Cotton, or Rose Bowl of the 4 quarterfinals. And so, but you would have to play the game. So I don't know what people are wishing for or wanting, or because I even had somebody like I don't know if I'd get real thrilled about a Tulane game or whatever, and I'm like, it's the playoffs. Like it couldn't be more meaningful. In your program's history, you would have never, ever, ever played a game more meaningful than that one. But it goes with but it's Tulane. I've even seen the number, like you'd be a 21.5 point favorite.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the factor, and by the way, with all due respect to Tulane, which apparently is very little because even their head coach said, we stink. Can't believe we're in the top 25. If we're in the top 25, there must be some really bad football ahead of us in the top 25. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but
yeah, Coach Summerall, he's got a lot going on too on his plate. His name being tossed around quite a bit, and he's one of those, I think, coaches that is the opposite of what he thinks his team needs. So I think that he knew they were going to be ranked, and he knew that they'd been playing pretty good lately. So he's going to pour water all over it. I think if they're struggling and all that, and we're getting their butt kicked, I think he would tell you how good they were. So I think that's just how he rolls there. But what's interesting is that if you want to talk about like having Miami here or Notre Dame here or Ole Miss here or A&M here or Texas here, whatever, everybody was like, can you believe that? How awesome would that be? And I like you would think, oh, it would be, but those games, no matter which one of those 4, 5, 6 opponents I just mentioned, would be a lot harder to win.
Oh, sure. And Tulane, I mean, look, crazy things can happen, so who knows? I wouldn't just take anything for granted. But like you said, saw some of those potential first-round projection lines, and minus 21.5 is the number I saw next to Tech hosting Tulane, if that's the scenario that we get. But it is kind of strange to me, Chris, that we sort of, at least I know as a fan, I'm so quick to almost bypass. And look, I'm new to this. All right. First go around. I don't have a lot of practice in this, but I'm almost quick to bypass the more navigable road, like the group of 5 opponent at home or an opening round bye, because we've been talking so much about this party factor in the LBK. I should probably drop it down a few slots on the priority list, if I'm being honest. But I'm still working on that, okay? But there is the navigable road aspect. If you could dream about a postseason road that did include you having to play a first-round game, and it was a group of 5 opponent, then obviously some others might be envious of that position. I'm not scared of the non-action in the first round, part, because I know what the record was last year. Also know what the group of 5 factor was last year in that. But I got to ask, like, how high up, you want to talk about priorities when considering what you want as a fan, how high up is the status of Behren Morton on your priority list? Because it's really seeming like it's ringing in at number 1 to me, that I would love to dodge an additional 4 quarters of football for that guy if we could possibly, and also 4 quarters of what considerably could be the most difficult competition of the year so far.
It's a valid point. He would have – You would have, okay, so in this scenario, because I think if you were to lose one of your next 2 games, and again, you're not guaranteed the second one, if you were to lose your 2 games, I don't know if this conversation holds. So we're going to assume that you've gone 2-0. You've beaten West Virginia, and then you've beaten whoever is served up to you in Arlington. And at that point, you would essentially have like a 2 weeks between, so it's essentially like another bye week. before you would play, whoever they sent to Lubbock. And while it is some rest, it doesn't probably totally get him fixed up and things like that. It is a valid question to consider aloud for sure, because you're kind of just hanging here with this, and you can't. It's just a bit tricky. You're. I don't want to say that like your future hangs in the balance or anything like that, but I mean, maybe kind of.
Yeah, good.
Good
need to say that, actually.
if something bad were to happen here, then it's like your outlook could change dramatically. And so I'm clear. We already know he's a bit compromised, but the same could be said with a lot of these teams out there, and that's the sport that they play. So, but isn't this crazy? If I rewind this thing back a couple of years ago, Callan, is this not silly talk that if we were talking about this a couple of years ago, and yet it's I just and I've almost had to like check myself a bit, going, dude, this isn't ho hum. This is like top of the food chain conversation. This is like you've cracked through, you've pushed through, and yet.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and football is in full force, and FanDuel's keeping you stocked with action every game day with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered. Quick, easy, and secure every time. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
And yet you, with all the goals and all the stories and all the vibes and all the publicity and all the stuff, as you sit here at 10-1, you really haven't accomplished one thing yet that you wanted to. Not a single one. Been pretty good, but you're still not guaranteed to go play in Arlington. You're still not. The CFP talk is all hypothetical, and we know that these rankings are weekly, and it's all kind of laying it out there, assuming that certain things happen. But all of it is just it's a lot, because Chris Level 2 years ago, when we started this thing, or 3 years ago, whatever, talking about a bye or CFP talk, I'm like, am I on the wrong show? I mean, that's just where we were at. It just seems so like unattainable. And yet the rules have changed, and you've put it together, and it is absolutely right there, all within your grasp, every single bit of it, like winning the whole damn thing, which would be extremely difficult to get done, because some of what you've maneuvered through to this point, those dynamics would change the further you go in this tournament if you get in it.
Yeah, and it's taken a hell of a toll on you just to get to this point in time, so you can only imagine how difficult it would be further down the road. But yeah, it's amazing, and it really even more so amazing, I think, going back to just considering Coach McGuire kind of getting a bowl footing back under your program, which was sort of a minimum expectation of where you would think you would be. But considering that you've been able to solidify yourself in the most important areas in the trenches, really playing defense, getting after the quarterback, taking the football away, special teams coming online in an advantageous way, it's just hard to consider, Chris, but we shouldn't be surprised with the result when you're able to do those kinds of things. That's going to lead, obviously, to winning football, but still got to go out and get it all. And you're exactly right. You have not really achieved anything that you were setting out to achieve yet. We mentioned that on Sunday's reaction episode. It wasn't about setting out to beat UCF or get 10 wins or more in the regular season. No. It was about Arlington and then setting yourself up for big opportunity on the other side of that. So hopefully Texas Tech is able to maintain and continue to head in that direction. But it's fascinating to see you there. I was just considering that earlier in the week and looking at a college football playoff ranking graphic, and you're just there with Ohio State, and you're there with Georgia, and you're there with Indiana, and then the dregs of society, somebody you're in a coin flip series with. The Aggies are there as well, even though you've been about $200 million behind them historically. I don't want to get bogged down in that matchup or that series, Chris. But it's wild to see the logos stacked up around the double T and not feeling like you've got to be smoke and mirrors or perfection in some of these settings to compete. Again, because of what I've already said, you're very, very sound in the most important areas.
It's totally normal and almost expected, which it's like quickly. I mean, how quick things have changed. Like, who are all of us to go, well, of course you moved up to fifth. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like, right. I mean, but yet that's how good this defense has been. That's how explosive your offense has been. That's how consistent and steady your season has been, large in part, to where it's not like, man, if you play a really good game, then maybe if you dare to dream a little bit, you're because I mean, how many times have you just blown somebody out and you didn't play very well this year? I mean, like, how many times has the head coach been like, there's an extra gear there, and you would go, God, dude, you just won by 30 points. And we would all go, yeah, there is probably an extra gear because you, with the turnovers or penalties or red zone issues, whatever, spin the wheel and pick whatever ails you. But it's just, these are wild times, man. Because this is, in this sport, this is the hardest club to crack. Pushing through, you go back and look at history, and obviously the beautiful thing about expanded playoff is it allows more access. Then the rules changed and all these things with NIL and all that stuff, which has allowed you to kind of kick the door in a little bit. But you just go back and look, there's only like, I don't know, 5 to 7 teams or whatever it is that have won national championships over the last like 50 years or something. I mean, there may be more than that, but it's a small select club. You know, your Bahamas, your Georgias, your LSUs, your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Clemsons. I mean, there's just not a whole lot else that have been able to have that kind of party, and yet here you are with a realistic opportunity, and there's nothing fluky about it. The other thing I wanted to bring up too before we move on from just the CFP topic, I am wildly fascinated to see how the Ole Miss scenario plays out here as it relates to Lane Kiffin. They are 10-1. They should finish 11-1. May or may not be in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. I'm thinking they're probably hoping that they're not, just because it's one less issue that they've got to maneuver through. But their head coaching situation is a bit tenuous. There's ultimatums being thrown around or rumored to be being thrown around. There's job offers. There's plane tracking going on. There's the family and the ex-wife toured this city and that city and all that stuff. There's yoga being done with his current boss and school president and all that stuff. Everything's fine here. There's been no ultimatum thrown around. Okay, it's just all a lot. And it appears that there's a decision that is needing to be made. And maybe at the time that the rankings come out, this decision is put to bed and all that stuff. I think there's a chance he could leave, talking about Lane Kiffin, probably to Florida, if I was guessing, not LSU. But I think that, LSU threw him top of the industry salary money and has made that offer. And he's got a guaranteed lengthy contract that he could, if he wants to live in Baton Rouge, he has that opportunity. If this is still hanging out there, or if he's like, hey, I'm going to stay, I'm going to coach my guys through the deal, but I'm going to accept this job, is that factor into any of the CFP's thought process? Because you just can't tell me that's the real Ole Miss that everybody that they're evaluating all year, if they've got a head coach 1 foot out the door or anything like that. I wouldn't buy it.
What are you talking about, basing something on precedent? What are you, nuts? Since they've already done that for a QB or for some other obscure angle of a team, even if it's not a starting quarterback, that'd be crazy. So definitely wouldn't factor in the head coach being gone. And by the way, if they do lose him, congratulations to Ole Miss and all of their efforts that culminated essentially in beating at the hands of Tyler Shuck. Terrific. What a run you guys have been on. I'd like to see him bounce. I don't like Lane Kiffin, but I'm annoyed by Ole Miss as well. So I'd like to see them have to sort of reset and maybe get back into appropriately sized britches. And we'll see what Lane can do elsewhere. I'm sure continuing to be annoying himself, but simultaneously entertaining. But yeah, what an interesting question you posed, Chris. Really quickly, good idea, bad idea for a school to give an ultimatum on the timeline that Ole Miss was attempting or is attempting.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is awkward. It is tricky. I think that they are to the point, whether this was like a real thing or it was kind of a strongly hinted at or whatever the reality is, Ole Miss has to be sitting there going, there's a realistic chance that he is not coaching here anymore.
Sure.
If not, what do we do? All these other schools, especially because they're feeling pressure, because look, Auburn, Florida, LSU are all circling and all that. So if Lane Kiffin is not here, he would fill one of those spots, obviously. What do we do? We're probably going to be talking to or wanting to talk to some of the same folks these other folks are talking to. And yet we have so much at stake. We are sixth in the country, and we don't want to go backwards, and so they're kind of probably trying to – because if he was staying, why wouldn't he have said as much?
Right. You'd extinguish it immediately. You're in the middle of what could be one of the most special seasons in program history.
And the one thing about Jimmy Sexton clients, they will typically, as awkward as it is, I would have a hard time operating in this existence. I'm just telling you, because I don't know if I have the stomach for it. But they typically will drag it out as long as they can, but it just creates more and more leverage for the client, if you will. But there are some timing things that are extremely tricky and awkward, and the CFP rankings are one, recruiting is another, the portal is another, the fact that so many other folks are trying to hire people, and so I think Ole Miss is going. Whether they politely did it or they rudely did it, or whether it was like a written document or like, hey man, can you just give us a heads up and let us know what's up? I mean, however this went down or whatever, I think they would like to know where. I mean, like Joey McGuire says, what's next? I think that Ole Miss is trying to ask that question aloud too.
Yeah, it's for us, the Bahamas and basketball. Grant McCaslin and the Red Raiders headed to the islands, Chris. One of the more interesting non-conference stops that we've got to consider along the way. Could get even more interesting depending upon, obviously, some results. But you're there with Wake Forest to begin. So you're back in another competitive setting, to say the least. Got to see them take Michigan to the brink just a few days back. And then we know what looms on the other side, potentially. But first, as far as the Demon Deacons and, more importantly, the Red Raiders, Chris, what are we thinking rolling into this one after kind of, I guess, most recently getting the most complete view we've had yet? I still don't even know that it's a complete one, but last time out. And hearing Coach McCaslin talk this week about, for the first time, back-to-back practices where really as a team they're able to kind of full throttle it. So all that combining to a very, very challenging and unique trip and set of circumstances, man. What are you expecting out of this one?
Speaking of circumstances, before we talk basketball here, I hope that we are incident free on this trip to the Bahamas. I hope that in the coming days or weeks, there's not like, there was something going on, whatever, and everybody knows what I'm referring to. If you know, right?
I thought there were two things actually that could be up for
true.
Guessing, so.
True.
Either one.
Let's just let's just hope that all's on the up and up, and I'm like kidding, kinda, but in all seriousness, hope that all goes well with the trip.
Maritime law is different. We all know that. International waters get dicey.
This is true. East Coast time zone, but a whole different place. Yes. So I think you'll have your large in part your full complement of a rotation tonight again, like you did against Milwaukee. I think that there's another week-ish worth of practices that have been put into, Luke Bamboye specifically. I think Josiah Mosley still he's got some time before you really get him back. But you're going to have a better feel for what your real rotation looks like. And here's some of the – and he's needed. I mean, he blocked 4 shots, initially, and I think that – just his mere presence and part of the thing. And we need to start knocking some of this rust off and working on some of this chemistry and all these things. Here is something to watch in the next 2 nights, tonight, tomorrow night. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You happen to be playing Wake Forest tonight. And I hope it's not like I'm just pointing it out just because I think it is worth pointing out. They have not been able to get to the free throw line and manufacture offense as easily with this group yet as you have in years past. And, I mean, even Milwaukee attempted more free throws than you did. We know what Illinois did. We can have an issue with the officiating. I think you were still outscored them by 10 in the points in the paint in Champaign, Illinois against Milwaukee. Milwaukee scored 4 more points in the paint than you did. And so I bring all this up to say that you've got to – that has to be a part of your team because you just can't – because like Donovan Atwell, well, it's been well documented. It's like, man, all he does is attempt threes. He's shot some free throws. He has. He actually made a floater the other night. I need to see Atwell and Bryan and – Petty and some of that. I need to see them get more downhill and put pressure on the rim. JT's game, because of the hook aspect, and it doesn't necessarily command. I mean, he's active around the basket and all that. And I don't know if we have a good feel yet for what Bamboye can do around the basket offensively, like the dirty work aspect, or can you throw it to him and let him score with his back to the basket? I don't think that's his game necessarily. I'm just talking about in total, there's going to be some nights where these shots don't fall, Cowan.
Oh, yeah.
And then what? Because good teams have an ability to go, okay, screw it. Let's just put our head down. Let's get them on their heels, and let's just come right at them. And the other team ends up fouling you, and you end up attempting 20 to 24 free throws. And you make 18 of them, and you kind of got yourself out of it. It opens everything else up. This team to this point, not necessarily what we're seeing just yet.
Do you think it kind of makes that even more challenging considering time where Bamboye and Toppin are on the floor at the same time? I was interested to hear Coach McCaslin talk about that, and I guess we're going to be seeing more of it, and I like the thought of it, definitely. But I'm wondering kind of spacing-wise how you can get downhill if you're somebody on the perimeter whenever you got big presences like that. And I may be making too much of it. I don't know, but that's an interesting dynamic to have size like that on the floor at the same time.
It is. I would say that those two on the floor together would really help the situation I'm talking about, just simply because it doesn't allow you to maybe drive it in and all that. Maybe it's clogged up, but it's all about spacing. But I think you could put so much pressure on the opposition in the paint and on the glass that if you're, because these two, the one thing about like Luke and JT is that they're really quick with their second jump. There's some quickness there. It's like when they start playing volleyball down there, and it's like, okay, their first jump is one thing, but they can get back up off the floor really quickly. You can really put pressure on people and on the glass and things like that, and that can cause you to get fouled and all those things. But I just want to see more instead of settling, if you will, with these jumpers. And again, I'm not if Donovan Atwell is open, he should shoot a three. He's really good at it. Tyree Bryan as well, Jalen Petty as well. But I think there are times when you'd kind of like to see them, hey man, you got somebody on their heels, don't take a contested one. Like get downhill, get to the paint, throw it up to one of your big fellas, get to the line, something like that. And we don't have a true body of work with this group. Heck, Grant's just trying to get these guys to practice for a week at a time before we start judging anything. I'm just pointing it out because it's been something you kind of paid attention to in the last two games. which I think are against the two toughest teams that you've played to this point.
Yeah, it stands out because the competition's stiff. We knew it would be this way very early on, right?
And it will be tonight.
Yeah.
It will be tonight. I mean, this is a. It may not be the sexiest, name or opponent or whatever, but this is going to be a sneaky good Wake Forest team, and you should feel good about it if you beat them and you earn the right to likely play Purdue. But this is going to be, you're going to have to go earn it against the Demon Deacons for sure.
Well, and you want to talk about, the nights that shots may not be falling. The thing I really want to see the most progress with, the quickest and getting to the free throw line is great, but I know defensively it's not been near where Coach McCaslin wants it to be. So that's going to take some time to come together. I like their odds defensively. And, of course, a lot of that comes with great effort. And I have no doubt Coach McCaslin can get them there. But would really see some progress, like to see some progress in the Bahamas on that front, especially this week and weekend, Chris. And if you see some of it, I bet you're going to have a chance to win some games against quality foes. So we'll see how quality or what it looks like this first time around with Wake Forest. But looking forward to it as, we got worlds colliding in a big way. It's still just kind of hard to fathom who and what kind of teams you're facing early on this season, really disrupting my slow acclimation to the college basketball season that I'm sort of accustomed to, man. It's gotten very real very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely, and it's not going to stop. I mean, this is, worlds are going to collide for the next 6 weeks, man. I mean, and they could really start colliding. Matt, we're sitting here talking about, are you going to host Tulane, and would you be fired up about it? And yet there's probably some people sitting there in the audience going, you know what? You know how I'm going to answer this question? I would be really glad if you got a bye so I could go to New York and watch your basketball team play Duke.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I didn't consider that as a priority.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but some will.
Yeah.
Some will.
And I'll add that to the list.
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
Behren Morton, Health, Group of Five, Party in Lubbock, and Duke at Madison Square Garden.
There you go. And I last thing I'll say, I don't disagree with your premise. If you're going to get out of this Bahamas MTE, this multi-team event at 2-0, it will absolutely require it's a non-negotiable on some defensive improvement and pretty significant. But I think you're dead on in that your team will be better defensively. It's just because Grant's the coach. It's just a matter of, are we going to get this in mid to late November? Is it going to be early January like last year, or does it take until mid-February? At some point, they will hit it, and they will start to be this. You just don't know when that'll be. And meanwhile, you'll be bobbing and weaving because your schedule is a bit dicey.
What time's tip-off for Wake Forest? Is it
7:30.
Okay, around about 7:30, it'd be nice to go ahead and bring that defense along if you boys don't mind. We're all rooting you on. All right, Chris, appreciate your time. As always, my man, we got one more go-round here during this open but not idle week for Locked On Texas Tech. We'll dive in to the mailbag before we get off to the weekend. So looking forward to that, man. Appreciate it as always, and we'll see you then.
Guns up, people. I do a Bahamas accent if I knew – yeah, man. That may be more like Jamaica. I don't know. Anyway, love the people on the islands and all of it. So anyway, we'll talk to everybody next time. Hopefully the Red Raiders play well tonight, especially on the defensive end of the floor, and can get to the free throw line if the shots aren't falling. The neutral site games are a bit tricky, man. Crowds are a bit tricky. It's a weird atmosphere. So anyway, we'll kind of keep an eye on that this evening. But we'll talk to everybody next time. Get those mailbag questions in. A lot going on with football and hoops this weekend for sure.
Yeah, and in case there's a wild card Bahamian accent, I'll just go, forget about it. I'm walking here. And bienvenidos, La Bahamas. I don't know, trying to cover all bases. Thank you for being out there, and thanks to the everydayers for always riding along. And, of course, the Matador Mob. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial if you're interested in joining that crew. Your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. And before we get out of here, Chris, we must pause for the cause of wishing a true dyed-in-the-wool Locked On Texas Tech fam family member a happy birthday. Belatedly. It's Pam Brewer, and Pam, the request was put in on time. It's all on me, but belatedly, happy birthday. And guns up thank you for being out there. She definitely, Chris, an everydayer.
Okay, Pam, happy birthday, belated or otherwise. Hope you have had a good trip around the earth. Here's to many, many more of those, man.
That's right.
Or ma'am, I should say. But yeah, happy birthday.
Guns up, wreck 'em, and keep on keeping on.
Yes.
Thank you for the time. Thank you, everybody, for the time. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.